Perfect. Good afternoon. My name is Roy Kirchner, and it is a happy Thursday, and I am looking for a great Secrets to Success today with my co-host JR. I am based here in Tampa, Florida. I'm a serial entrepreneur, have had several businesses. And it's interesting saying you're a serial entrepreneur because I think in order for me to be a serial entrepreneur, I actually failed several times. So we're going to get into that today, but I'm going to let JR introduce himself first, and then we're going to get into all this today. So it's going to be a
Awesome.
great LinkedIn Live today.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Roy. And as always, thank you for having me be a part of this awesome live stream. The bottom line is we get together each week so we can have meaningful impact for entrepreneurs and leaders. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is JR Espino. My company is Alloy Advisors, and I'm a business coach here in the Tampa Bay area as well. And my emphasis is really around how to help companies with financial performance, company and culture, and leadership to ensure that they are ultimately achieving their definition of success. So, super excited about this particular conversation because there are a lot of people who are either established entrepreneurs, maybe new entrepreneurs, or even some people who are aspiring entrepreneurs. And the content we're going to be talking about today really touches on exactly that. So, our topic today is the entrepreneurial mindset, why 99% of businesses fail and how to avoid it. Basically, we want to be able to cover some of the different habits and mindset shifts that separate winners from losers. Before we jump into the actual discussion, for those of you who are joining us, please engage with us, interact with us in the chat. If you wouldn't mind chatting where you are joining us from, and then we would love to be able to have you, like I said, interact with us as well. Roy, you are, as you said, a serial entrepreneur, and there are a lot of different things that you've gotten to see over the course of time in terms of, the right kind of approach because you have been successful, right? You're not part of that 99% of businesses who fail. And so, my first question to you is, from your perspective, why do 99% of businesses fail? Is it mindset? Is it mechanics? Or is it market?
Well, first off, I will say that I'm successful now, but you always grow, right? And you learn and you achieve more. There's been plenty of failures in my life. So I want people to understand that failing is you need to take the word and kind of reformulate it in your head. Failing is learning. Right.
Mm,
So the word failing needs to be learning because there is no failure. Like
yeah.
as you get bigger, stronger, better, you are going to fail. But a fail is a lesson that you're learning. You have to remember everything in the past, everything that we've done up to this point in our lives, hindsight's 2020. We can look in the
Mm,
past and we can see everything clearly, right? And the most in things is if you just got knocked in the head, right? You're standing in a baseball, like on a baseball field, and the pitcher throws and he hits you, chances are he hits you. The next time he ain't gonna hit you because you are paying attention
mm,
tremendously more, right?
hmm
And the chances of him hitting you is less because you're paying attention. So that's where I say when things bite you in the past, you're learning from those things. So hindsight is always 2020. You're learning from the things that you've messed up on and you're constantly growing, right? So that is tremendous information all the time in business because you are only succeeding if you are knowing how to change your business constantly and adapt to the new world, right? Because the world is changing tremendously. Marketing and advertising is changing tremendously. The way people buy is now changing more than ever. The way technology is evolving, is changing more than it ever has. So just because you're a serial entrepreneur, just because you're a successful business owner, doesn't mean it can't all be taken from you if you don't keep your eye on the ball, right? But
yeah.
at the beginning, At the very beginning, if you're looking to become an entrepreneur, I truly say there's two things, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. One is you just gotta take the leap and actually do it. A lot of
Mm,
people say they're gonna do something, but they never actually do it. They have
yeah.
too many people chiming in their ear saying, "Oh my gosh, that's a risk, this, that," right? So you have to cut out the noise and you just have to take the opportunity, right? But
Hmm.
at the same time, I'm saying that is you have to truly pay attention to every single thing that you're doing, no matter what. When I took these risks, I took risk by saved up money. Right.
Mm,
I didn't become an entrepreneur just one day. I realized that I wanted to become an entrepreneur and I did have somewhat of a safety net, right? A
mm,
little bit of a safety net. That safety net can go tremendously fast if you do wrong things. Like if you hire somebody too early, if you pay too much in rent, all these different types of things, right? So you want to run really, really lean at the
mm.
beginning, but at the exact same time, right? You have to take the chance to do it. And
Yeah.
there is so many people that actually just don't take that risk, right? So it's that, but I'm gonna throw it over to you, JR, and you kind of walk through some and we'll keep on going here, my friend.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that you're talking about that. First of all, we need to eliminate the term failure, that failing is learning and hindsight being 2020. And so part of what I'm hearing you say there, the conversation today is, why businesses fail, why 99% of businesses fail and how to avoid it. And, to me, it really is about mindset. And part of that mindset is mindfulness, taking what our experiences are and doing something with it, doing something about it. I am a proponent of, people often say, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I'm a proponent of saying, why is this happening for me? And so it is all about mindset. Sure, there are things that are out of our control that can impact our successes as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, as a business owner. What we can absolutely control is our mindset around that. What we can control is how we're going to react and respond to those different stressors, to how we're going to move forward with the change. And you talked about that too, adapting and changing. That's what is the saying? Like the one thing is constant, that there's something's going to change, right? I mean, besides death and taxes, the other thing that's constant is change. And so I am with you 100% that, to me, we have to have solid mindset when we are in business for ourselves, that we are looking at those moments where, gosh, this feels like failure, but then we need to be able to push through. And so with that, let me ask you this, beyond stats, what do you believe is the real reason most entrepreneurs don't make it?
They don't, they absolutely do not remove out of their vocabulary the word
Mm.
quit, right? They
Oh,
don't remove it because it doesn't exist when you're an entrepreneur. You
yeah,
just keep going and you keep pushing forward. And you got to be smart about pushing forward. Sometimes,
yeah.
like you said, there's times when it just does not in any way, shape, or form make sense to continue with that business. You may need to evolve into another business. I mean, so like there was a lady I just spoke to this week. She had an entire business and it was wiped out by the hurricane, right?
Mm,
So you have to re-evolve. There's a lot of things there that are in the way that is out of her control. One is, when is the insurance company going to pay back? How does she get up and operating? She actually moved into a different business. And I get that, right? I get
mm,
that. The biggest thing, right, that you have to remember is that you surround yourself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. You always want to surround yourself with other successful entrepreneurs,
mm,
and you want to have some type of mentorship, some type of coach, some type of consultant, some type of somebody that's rallying you on your team. I think if there's anything that I would do differently, is I would have got more of that. And I always
Mm,
had it, but I would have got more of it, right? Because the more good people you can surround yourself with, and the more successful people, the more obstacles that you're actually going to be able to overcome so much easier because the chances are somebody has already been through what you're going through and they
yeah.
have the answer. And it took, when I got into 3D printing, and I'll give a little bit of story here, when I got into 3D printing, it's what you call true 100% real entrepreneurship, right? There is no school for this. It's a brand new technology. There's no way to train people except for the ground up. There's no policies, there's no procedures, there's no manuals, right? It's not like you're picking up a book from McDonald's and everything's already figured out. Like they've got it all figured out. It's not a franchise, right? So there's so many more obstacles that are in your way, right?
Hmm.
That you're constantly having to figure out how to overcome these obstacles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it teaches you in a way to, realize that, how do I say it? And it sounds interesting. It really does, because even though my business is true entrepreneurship and nobody's done it before, there's still so many common traits with other businesses that I didn't realize, right? Until I started reaching out to successful, truly successful CEOs that said, like, Roy, your business is not any different than mine. We both have labor issues. We both have trying to staff. We both have accounting problems. We both have this, that. And I realized that we do. And
Mm,
it's building the things that people don't think of. And this is the true, how do you succeed, right? That's what this conversation is about.
yeah.
To truly succeed in business, it's all the things that you don't want to do. It's
Mm,
all the things, right? It's all
mm,
the things that you need to document: the policies, the procedures, the manuals, the to-do list, the
yeah.
double checking, the making sure that everything's 100%. And no matter what, it's the customer or the client, right?
Yeah.
Or the product that you're providing, have to make sure that that is first, no matter what. No matter what's going on in your business, no matter if you have a customer, client, or product, you have to make sure that it's doing every single thing you need it to do, and it's allowing your business to grow, no matter how much turmoil you have within the business.
Yeah.
JR, back to you, brother.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great. And interestingly, so, first of all, you're talking about what entrepreneurs don't do is they don't remove the word quit versus keeping on going. Interestingly, in the chat, Pamela put in here, she said, please speak to pivoting, starting out as XYZ, but over time realizing that perhaps ABC is wiser, or would this be considered quitting? Right. And so I think, I'll speak to that, but I want your take on that too. And she even talks about fear as the one word in terms of the biggest challenge. And so to me, I think that pivoting is not quitting. To me, I look at that as adjusting to whatever the needs are. Now, one might say, okay, if I was doing one line of work, let's say that I own a food truck and I'm doing this business as a food truck and it's not as successful as a food truck, but then I decide, oh, I'm going to go do mobile car detailing instead. Now, some people might call that quitting. Others might call that pivoting to be able to meet the needs to be profitable, right? Because at the end of the day, people are in business to be able to generate revenue, to be able to generate profit. Even if you're a nonprofit organization, your goal is to have profit to then, put into the organization and whatnot. And so to me, I believe that entrepreneurs they'll quote fail because of that quitting, and they don't have the people around them who will encourage them. You mentioned, surrounding yourself with the right type of people, other entrepreneurs. And we talk about this pretty regularly around having a coach, having a consultant, having a mentor. That's part of your story too, and having a mentor. But really having somebody who has your back, somebody who could give you the good, the bad, and the ugly to encourage you to be able to change. Because, inherently human beings truly resist change. Like that's truly a thing. I mean, sure, people adapt to it and they may say that they like change. Physiologically, we actually resist it. So let me ask you that same question that Pamela put in here. What's your thoughts around, you started out as XYZ, but realized perhaps ABC is wiser. To you, is that pivot quitting?
Not at all. You're learning and you're changing, right? You're learning and you're changing all the time.
Yeah,
So I say that I'm using it in the context of saying that, right? That you're learning and you're changing all the time in life and in business,
yeah.
right? And that's true. I mean, that's the thing that people need to realize is it's so hard for some people that I think that fear factor comes in because people
Mm,
are so scared of change.
yeah,
But what I realized at a young age is things change every single day, right? And you have got to be able to change. So you never
yeah,
want to feel comfortable because, like, if I have a business and it's making a certain amount of money, I say, it's where it's like I'm successful, right? It can easily be taken away, right? It can
yeah.
easily be because of the factor of change, right? COVID hits, or gosh forbid, you have a hurricane. We just said that. And all of it changes. So you have to realize that change is going to constantly happen and it's always gonna be at your doorstep, and
Right.
that you have to be able to let change happen and adapt to those changes. I mean, it was just like today, a gentleman I'm just going to kind of say it, a county commissioner reached out, right? And he said, Roy, would you ever consider, I'm in 3D printing additive manufacturing, but I'm not in this sector. He goes, would you ever consider getting into the concrete 3D printing? And I was like, okay, what's going to come out of his mouth? Is it going to be 3D printing houses, right? And I'm like,
Mm,
I really don't want to get into 3D printing houses. And there's a long story, but there's tons of permits and 3D printing and housing and permits. There's just so much there's so much disruption there that it's
mm,
really hard, right? And then next thing you know, he said, no, 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 it's concrete printing, but it's not houses, and
yeah.
there's really no permitting. And I said, well, what is it? He goes, it's seawalls, a
Mm,
seawall for a house, right? And he said, there's a company in Miami, and we're trying to get them to come up to Pasco County, where we're at in Tampa Bay, to put all these seawalls so that we're protected. And it's way more cost effective than building a regular seawall. And he goes, there's a lot of, county money that we could put into helping you get this going, right? And there's possibly some investors I can introduce you to. I mean, Jesus, that's a whole different side of the business than the business I'm in now, right? But would I want to pivot to that? It's a risk, right? Because it's, gosh forbid, it's something I don't know. But I didn't know 3D printing, but I actually don't know 3D printing concrete and seawalls, right? But
yeah.
you have to look at it and you have to weigh those risks and anybody that may do it more than anybody else. And this is what he said to me. He looked at me and he said, if there's anybody that's probably going to do it, it would be you, because you've already like took a risk and got into 3D printing when nobody even knew what the word meant, right? So
Mm,
if there's anybody that would lay this up and possibly do it, it would probably be you, Roy. So it's those types of things, right? I think it's just constantly pivoting and evolving. And if something's not working, you have to pivot. If it's not making you enough money, if it's not being successful, it doesn't mean quit. It actually means
yeah,
pivot, right? And
yeah,
a lot of people have that fear, and you got to get over that fear, right? And that
yeah,
is so much information that I'm saying here, but you just said it really well, JR, that the number one thing is having people that you can discuss your pivot with, right? People that are around you that you can discuss, these successful people, and that can give you some information. I always want advice, but I never want somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like my mentorship at a young age for me, knew you know you have the right mentor when he gives you information, but he says at the end of the day, right, it's got to be up to you. Are you
Mm.
going to go left on the road or are you going to go right on the road?
Yes.
You've got to decide. And you may go left and it may be not be the right way, right? But I'm giving you the advice, but I can't make you go left or right. You got to decide that for yourself. And I think that's great mentorship because at the end of the day, it's got to be you. And sometimes I went left and the end of the road hit. Like you said, I failed plenty of times, right? And sometimes I went right and that was the right way to go.
Yeah.
So there's always that, and that's in business and in life. You can use that in business and in life. Sometimes we go one way and we don't know go the other. And then, like you said, with fear and change, you have to remember. I mean, I just talked to a person that was married for 32 years. And they just got divorced. 32
Mm.
years. And
Well,
they just got divorced. Why? Again, because people change, right?
yeah.
People change. And that was the number one thing the person said is the person changed. Like
Yeah.
the human person, it doesn't matter who you are, you could always change, right? And that person changed. And next thing you know, 32 years later, they're getting a divorce because it's just not sunshine and rainbows like it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, both of them didn't want to sacrifice and compromise in the right way, and a divorce happens, right? So it's in business and in life, but but you're always going to have it. So I really say that fear is everybody has that fear. It's
Yeah, and
guaranteed.
and even with that, I just put this in the chat for the viewers. Drop a surprise face if you've ever made a decision from fear instead of strategy. And the reason why I put that in there is because sometimes fear can be overwhelming if we don't have the right mindset. And as business leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs, we need to consistently think about our strategy for our business. And again, that's part of mindset and resilience even. There's a saying I used to always put on my whiteboard outside of my desk cubicle area when I was in one of those cubicle fish bowls, and it was the difference between try and triumph is a little umph, you know, and that umph comes from within. So, that gumption, I don't know if that's the word, but whatever, it is about making sure that you have enough intentionality. One of my good friends, that's his word of the year is intentionality, and having that type of intentionality in the mindset so that then we're not making decisions based on that fear, but instead of strategy. And Matthew, thank you again for joining us. I know that you're joining us from the Clearwater, Florida area, and you have two of those shock faces of making a decision from fear instead of strategy. So doubled. And then Dennis, thank you for joining. And yes, you have done that as well. So as I think about this mindset piece, sometimes it gets us stuck because you were just talking about fear and that, pivoting to something else isn't necessarily a fear related thing. You're adjusting, but sometimes we get stuck, and that could be what kills our business as well. So, Roy, I'll ask you this. What have you done to ensure that you're not stuck when you're in that moment and you're like, oh, this is all this stuff is happening. This is terrible. I don't know what to do, or this is happening to me, not for me. Like, how do you choose a mindset to get unstuck?
Again, it's interesting with me because I have just got to the point where I I I push myself to the next thing. I don't quit, right?
Mm,
And that's how I get unstuck. And I think the number one way is talking to people, right? And
okay.
having people say to me, like, you're a smart person, right? Seriously, like you're a smart person and you're gonna figure this out. Like you're gonna figure it out. Like
Yeah.
it's not as
Yeah.
big a deal as what you really think it is. Like it's
Yeah.
not earth shaking. Because sometimes I'll say like it's earth shaking, but it's not. I've overcome something bigger in my life, right? And just talking through it, right? So that is probably one of the biggest things is making sure that you have a good support system in
Yeah.
place, right?
Yeah.
And let's use, it was funny because I just saw this yesterday on a TikTok actually, right? And a guy was talking about he got in a fight with his wife, right? And he got in a fight with his wife and he picked up the phone, and depending on who he calls, right, does he have the right friend or the wrong friend? So did he basically picked up the phone and the guy said, "Listen, your wife is your best friend, right? Like she's your cheerleader, she does all these things, and you're gonna get through this and you will sacrifice, you'll compromise, you guys will figure it out, right?"
Mm.
And that was the one call that you could call somebody. And the next one was like, forget her. You're way better than her. Like you should, you're in the right, she's in the wrong. You need to put her in her place and you need to do whatever it takes to get to the next level. Wow, think about that. That's two different complete things. And if you call the wrong person,
Mm.
that second one that I just said was 100% right, the wrong person, right? Because they're not looking at your best interest at hand, right? So you got to realize
Mm.
that in some ways you got to have it's so important to have the correct people within your life that you're speaking with about
Yeah.
business and about life, right? And if
Yeah.
you, in the way like, let's just be real here, the way if you've got the right person is you just know. It's in your
Yeah.
gut, right? Like you just
Yeah.
know if that person's honestly telling you, you're gonna know. Like if
Yeah.
somebody said to me like, the second one and said all these things, I'm gonna know like, I don't think this is right? And then, you're not gonna you may not bring up that topic with that person again, or you
Mm.
may realize that that's like every single topic you bring up with that person, and you need to move yourself away from that person because they're not helping you succeed, right? Because it could be a completely different topic and they're still negative and they're still giving you the wrong information, and it just may be the type of person they are, right? And that's what's holding them back from being successful in their life, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of this is bad. Like you have to understand that growing and being successful, right, is sacrificing people, sacrificing
Mm.
friends,
Yeah.
sacrificing family. And I'm not joking. Like we're really having this conversation, sacrificing friends, sacrificing family, people that are not there to see you grow and become more. Nobody's going to be your cheerleader. They will after you've done it, right? But on the way up, there's not many people that are going to cheer you on, right? But
Right.
they're going to be like, wow, you got it. I didn't think he could do it, but he did it. So
Yeah.
you got to surround yourself with the right people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and one thing that I regularly say, I quote John Maxwell, and that is one is too small a number to achieve great things. And he goes on to say that when you think of anything of historical significance, it's never been done by one person. And so we have to be mindful of that. And actually, even Pamela commented on this. She says, Roy, you're spot on. We are the sum of the five people you surround yourself with, and
yeah.
making sure that you're evaluating that all the time. Because sometimes things change. Sometimes things change for yourself. Sometimes things change for those other people as well. Having those right people is absolutely critical. Also, thank you. I see Pamela. You also have that shock face, and Pamela asked a question. Regarding stuck. How do you know you're stuck? Now, for me, part of me knowing I'm stuck is if I am not really doing the things that I know I should be doing. Sometimes it's even a little bit about procrastination, not doing it. And actually, earlier, Roy, you said something about do it, just do it. Things you don't want to do, just do it. You said that earlier. And that reminds me of this concept called eat the frog. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that. If you've heard of eat the frog, put it in the chat, a little frog or the word frog. And ultimately, what that's about is there are tasks that we don't like, and just like eating a frog, nobody really likes to eat a live frog, and it is get that done and out of the way as quickly as possible. And so again, for me, I would say I acknowledge when I'm stuck when I'm not eating the frog. or when I'm procrastinating, or I'm not engaging in the activities that I should be. And then it even goes back to something I said previously and how I get unstuck with that. I talked about a director I used to work for, and he did this roadshow training, and he talked about doing the thing gives you energy to do the thing. So get out and do the thing, you know? So to me, that's when I know that I'm stuck. I don't know, Roy, how about you? When do you identify yourself as being stuck?
I identify myself as being stuck all the time. It's just
Jeez.
being honest, I get stuck a lot because again, the world is changing. It's changing, business is changing. There's obstacles, especially this year. I've been stuck more than I even want to kind of admit, right?
Mm,
Because all of a sudden, let's just be real here. Like all of a sudden, one day I'm in business, the next day, like 90% of my technology in 3D printing comes from China, right? And the
mm,
next day, Trump puts tariffs on, and the whole world changes, right? Now it did go back, like he removed those, right? But there was a time when we were like stuck, right?
yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I realized in that time is the first thing that you have to do is not panic. Like you
Mm,
learn that over time because at the beginning I panicked tremendously. I'm not gonna tell you like you're constantly panicking. You gotta slow down. You have
yeah.
to slow down and you have to think through things, right? And you have to give it time. You have to say, okay, this is going on. Like, let's not react that fast.
Yeah.
Let's take a second. Let's breathe. Really, like not only do I think about it, but then I have people that I trust, like basically come onto a session with me, I guess like a group of people and say, hey, this is what's going on. And these are
Yeah.
people I seriously trust. And this is what's going on. My business is halted. Like it's
Yeah.
halted. Like all of a sudden, like we can't bring in product, right? And this is a big issue. And okay, well, what can you do right now? What can you do? You can switch to services. You can buy the remaining inventory that's here. You can just tighten up all your systems in like you have all these, team members, employees. Like if they're not able to do this job right now, like let's clean up everything. Let's like the things that they weren't able to do because they're busy every single day. Now we can get
Mm,
those tasks done and let's push it out as far as we can and let's hopefully this will pass, right? And then it did pass, right? It
yeah.
did pass.
Yeah.
So it's those types of things. And what I say to you is do not make reactions. People make, and
Mm,
listen, I'm guilty of this. I sometimes make tremendous reactions too fast. You need to
mm,
slow down. You need to hold it in, right? And you need to think about it and you need to analyze it, right?
mm,
And you need to come at it in a different direction. Right? If you're
yeah.
mad about something, it's amazing the way that you look at the same thing, even though you're mad, if you just give it 24 hours. If you
Yeah.
give it 24 hours, man, you look at it in a completely different context, right?
Yeah.
And everybody does. So
Yeah.
I think it's being patient a little bit with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So, actually that ties into a question that I asked in the chat for the viewers, and I'll ask you the same in a moment. So I asked the viewers, what's a mindset shift you've made that has changed your business? And so Matthew, he said he changed his mindset from financial freedom for himself to financial freedom for his parents. And that has kicked him into high gear for being successful. And I love that because then it is thinking a little bit bigger than his normal, just his little circle, right? Or just himself, but thinking a little bit bigger. I love that. Also in the chat here, we have,
Well, let's stay on that for a second. Let me bring something up here.
yeah,
And you've said it many times. I so admire what he just said, right? Like this year, I unfortunately lost my mom, and my mom was my life in the
yeah,
way of she provided for me, and the number one thing I wanted to do in life was be successful to give back to her. That was
yeah,
me, right? That was me. And I think parents are so many things that people sometimes don't realize. You can count on your hand, you can count on your hand the people that are there for you in this world, like that are truly there. Like, gosh forbid, in the middle of the night, you need to pick up the phone and you need to call, and that person on the other end can't say no. They have to say yes. That
Yeah.
is pretty much your parents, right? And very close friends and maybe other family members. But again, you don't have that many. Like you're not gonna
Yeah.
like you don't have that many. So I think it's the big thing of, doing that. It's so important, right? And it means so much because your parents do give so much. They want to always see you do better than they did. They're the
Yep.
they're the one person that always wants to see you do better. So I think that's amazing that you've done that, right? And I think it's the same as what we just talked about, JR, is like calming down in business and in life to realize what is truly important. And me and
Yeah.
you have gone through a lot, right? JR, you have been through too, and you got to realize 100% what's important, right? And that is something that is part of business. Like if something's eating at you within a business, right? And you're in you it's making it so that you can't have everything that you want. You got to make that change as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big part.
Yeah, I agree, and it ultimately, and actually, even Pamela commented on here too. It is purpose, right? Changing purpose. I regularly say, there are a lot of things I regularly say, but another thing that I regularly say is that we work to live, we don't live to work. Whether you're working for an organization or lead your organization, you own your own business, you work so you can do the things you want to and need to with your family and friends. Period. And so I think that that's a really nice mindset to have around to eliminate the term failure because there are more skin in the game when you're thinking about it in that way and being able to take care of folks. And yeah, even Pamela keeps summarizing a lot of these great points, selfless, not selfish. And earlier she commented on earlier you were talking about sometimes you react too fast, and her comment is act, not react. And she said that's so tough. And there are a lot of people
It,
too who I asked, yeah, right.
yeah,
But even
I mean, yeah. It
go for it.
takes it sometimes takes a coach or consultant to do that, right?
Yeah.
It sometimes takes a family member or friend to get that what you just said, brother, right? Like it
Hmm.
sometimes takes that phone call
Hmm.
to you shouldn't react, right? But again, it sometimes takes that you gotta surround yourself. Again, the most successful people, right, in business, they will truly tell you that they didn't get to where they were themselves, right? They got
Yeah.
with a strong team, a strong culture, a strong vision, had people in their corner, family, friends, right? Coaches, consultants, all of these types of things. And I think entrepreneurship is very, very different than sports. But bottom line, like, sports, the one thing I do believe in is it's the same thing. It's a team. The
Yep.
day that you grow a business, it's not you. It's how many times you can replicate the
Yeah.
power of you. How many times that you can get people to see your vision, to follow you, right? And to see your vision and to take ownership and to take like it's theirs, right? And to teach people that, right? So I think that's a long way goes when it comes to a business, right? And being successful because it's hard. Like business
Hmm.
is not easy nowadays, right? It's not. And when you pull that trigger, like I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm a business owner, I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I couldn't do all that I do at all, right? Without my team. I could
Hmm.
not do it. I would not be where I'm at today by myself. This wasn't just me. And anybody that says that, they're really full of it, right?
Right.
Because it's about the people that are around you, right? It's about the people that support you, like my spouse, my wife, and all that she puts up with, right?
Hmm.
Because again, like you're not owning multiple businesses and sitting on a beach, people say sitting on a beach earning all this money and having Mai Tais. Come on. No, that doesn't work, right?
Right,
You're
right.
working. You're working. Now there is a time when you have to put time into the business and then time on the business. That is a
Yes.
gigantic thing that maybe we want to shift to a little bit, JR, and talk about.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
bring up in just a second is like working in your business and then shifting to working on your business. And you have to do both. You have to
Hmm.
be successful.
Yeah, so first of all, there's a lot packaged in there, but really it continues to go back to mindset and mindfulness, right? So making sure that we are being intentional. I mentioned that earlier, the word of the year of my friend, intentionality, making sure that we're really thinking about it. Gosh, even earlier you're talking about choice A, choice B, which do you go with? And the person needs to make the decision for themselves because at the end of the day it's us as the entrepreneur, as the leader, or whatever. But as long as you're putting purposeful thought behind it, you're going to make the right choice, right decision. And sometimes you may realize, okay, maybe actually there could be a better choice, better decision to be able to get to that next point. And so you're brought up a nice segue, and that is something that I regularly tell my clients, prospects and clients. And that is my goal as a business coach is to get them to the point where they're working more on their business and less in their business. Again, more on their business and less in their business. I don't say not working in the business because they might want to, right? So they get to the point where they're working in the business because they want to, not because they need to. And so I'm going to ask this in the chat. So viewers, if you can answer the question, and Roy, I'll ask you this question. What's one mindset shift that instantly leveled up your business trajectory? And going along with that thought process of working on your business and strategy as opposed to in your business. So, Roy, what's one mindset shift that instantly leveled up your business trajectory?
I mean, one big thing was you get to a point where you have certain customers, right, that you're working with in a way that they were what the return on investment was, the ROI at
Hmm.
the end of the day when I sat down with my senior leadership team, and we had
Mm,
the time to analyze a client, that the amount of time we were putting into the client compared to the money that we were
yes.
making, we were losing business. Like we were losing money. We were seriously losing money. Like they were draining us. And we had to make that decision that we were better off not having them at all, because there was
Yeah.
no way to explain to them in a rational way that we're actually losing so much money, because they just couldn't realize it, right? They
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
just leading our time. So I think it's those, that's a big part right there.
Yeah, and it's so funny because sometimes people are too worried about, well, I don't want to lose that client. They don't think about the true ROI. They don't think about what sometimes people call the cost to serve, right? Like if you are expending all this energy and effort to sometimes even be negative profitability in serving that customer, then you shouldn't be. And that is something in terms of mindset shift that can help to be able to have, it's so funny because we continue to go back to having the right people around you. And in your case, you're talking about your senior leadership team and having a team around you, not even just your support system, but, getting to that point where you're thinking about strategy. That is how, in my opinion, you work more on the business is you're thinking about the strategy. You're thinking about the different data points and how does that impact your business results, your KPIs, your ROI, or what have you? I would say for me, when it comes to that same thought process of mindset shift that leveled up my trajectory, when it's the same thing along the lines of ROI, it's, well, what am I really spending my time doing? Am I doing things that are going to yield success? Or am I just going through the motions just to feel good about myself? Honestly, like, oh, I'm doing all these things, but is it really productive? A few episodes ago, actually, I don't think you were on that one, Roy. It was when I was with Kevin, and we talked about the fact that there was a guy I had met a long time ago, and we're catching up, and He's like, "Oh, how are things going?" I said, "Man, it's been busy. I've been really busy." He said, "Busy or productive?" I'm like, "Oh man, like you're right." And so that was one of the mindset shifts that I had to level up my business is around that productivity. Again, getting to the point where I'm focusing more on working on the business than less in the business. So that's my take on that. Matthew answered that question and he said, honestly, realizing I was solving an issue versus just trying to make sales because he is a photographer. He shifted his mindset to realize that he was genuinely solving a problem, and that's when he started to see more success. And Pamela comments on knowing your own worth, and it is that ROI, being able to make those decisions for the trajectory of my business, the strategic aspect of it, as opposed to just going through the motions. We are getting closer. We're less than 10 minutes to the end here. So I have a really important question for you, Roy. You've been an entrepreneur for a long time. So what do you wish someone had told you about building a business before you started?
The number one thing, and it's interesting because I like to ask this question, and anybody can take this nugget. If you ever go hear a successful entrepreneur, business owner speak, right? At the end of his speech, he says, typically they say, I could take a few questions. I can take
Mm,
a few questions. And I'm always the first guy that I raise my hand. Like I jump up and down, I raise my hand. It doesn't matter who's up on stage because
mhm,
again, we can learn from people always, right? But I say to them the exact kind of thing that you said to me. I say to them, hindsight's 2020. You can look in the
mhm.
past. If you could change anything
Yeah.
and you could go back and you could need to know something or read a book or ask somebody or talk to somebody, what is the number one thing that you wish you had, right? And this has come up more times than I can tell you, and it is one of the biggest hurdles that I've ever faced in my entrepreneur life, right? And it's absolutely, without a doubt, financial literacy,
Mm,
understanding
yes.
dollars and cents and books and money and understanding those. I think the number one thing is that and right out of Damon John, the Shark Tank's mouth, that's the first thing he said. He's like, Roy, I would be 10 times what I am to now if I understood financial literacy earlier in my career. And he goes, I don't know who told you to ask this question, but he goes, I am so powerful on that. He's like, I actually wrote a book for
Mm,
people to understand financial literacy. And that was Damon John, one of the Shark Tanks, which is an amazing guy. He's a little bit different on Shark Tank compared to actually seeing him. He's really an amazing, wholesome guy. But I can tell you that anybody that is wanting to be successful, right, in business, the more you can understand at a higher mid-grade and a lower level financial literacy, right? How to read a P&L, how to understand, how to even choose, like we're getting deep into it a little bit, but how to even choose the right bank. People don't even realize like a bank is not a bank. And they're like,
mm,
what do you mean? A bank is a bank. What's the difference between Truist and Bank of America and, all these different banks? Each bank has what is called a portfolio of
mm,
clients that they service. And if their clients are dentists, doctors, lawyers, surgeons, and you're not in that business, you're in the restaurant business, that is not the bank to be with you because when you need help, they're not going to understand your business. And you may not even know it until that time. And then all
mm,
of a sudden they're like, no, you should be with this bank because they understand, like their underwriters, their people tremendously, completely understand the restaurant business. Like 90% of their customers that they service are in the restaurant business. That's the bank you want to be with. And nobody even kind of brings this up, but it's interesting that we're bringing it up, right? Because
mhm.
again, financial literacy, understanding those types of things is the absolute biggest thing that I can tell you, same as Damon John, I'd be 10 times bigger if I would have picked it up sooner. right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with someone. It was within the last couple of months, and talking about what are some of the main challenges, and with business owners today, and in terms of my observations. And so I went on and I talked about marketing. I talked about staffing and personnel and whatnot. And then he actually said, he goes, "Oh, I'm surprised you didn't say financial literacy." And I said, "Well, you're right. And that is absolutely critical for people to understand that and have a mindset around learning financial literacy, or at least having somebody that they trust, whether it's their CPA or a business attorney or whomever, to be able to business coach, consultant, whoever, to be able to help take them through that, because somebody might be great at what they do. The example that I often use is, somebody may be a great plumber, the best plumber in town, but then might not be successful because they're not business minded. And part of being business minded is having financial literacy. Even when it comes to surrounding yourself with the right people and the right team, I've seen it time and time again. I came from corporate America. I saw a lot of great successes. I saw a lot of great challenges. And in the sales world, a lot of times I saw the best sales rep would get promoted to sales manager, and they weren't the right fit because they're a better salesperson. They don't have the mindset of that leader. And that's the thing as an entrepreneur, even if you're a solopreneur, you're still a leader, and you have to have that mindset around the fact that, and just like Matthew said, he's expanded it beyond himself. You have to have that bigger mindset and be humble when you don't have all the information that you need, and gain that knowledge you need to be able to grow and learn and develop. And even for those people who are joining us today and who join us consistently, thank you for those of you who join us consistently, 100%. And obviously thank everyone else who has joined us. We like to have this conversation because Roy and I are at different stages of our entrepreneurial lives. He leads multiple businesses, and I'm newer and have transitioned from corporate America, from employee to entrepreneur. And we like to be able to have this conversation to have an impact on people like you who are viewing. And please share when you see this recording. Please repost this and share it so we get more people to be able to ask questions, comment, so that then we can ensure that we're hitting all the different things for people, to have the meaningful impact. So, I just want to say thank you all for joining us. Roy, I'll turn it back to you to close us out.
Thank you again, everyone. I appreciate it. I definitely am here with JR every single week to go over secrets to success, to help anybody and everybody be more successful in 2025. That's our main goal, and to give you any information that we can possibly give you of any mistake that we've ever made in the past that we don't want you to make, right? We want
Mhm.
you to grow and become better. And it's a true pleasure. Again, thank you for joining us, and we will be here next week. All right, everybody, have a wonderful week. Talk to you
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
Bye bye.